I never planned to heal a vampire. In fact, if you had told me a month earlier that my life would revolve around an ancient blood tribe and a girl who drank moonlight like wine, I would have laughed and walked away. My name is Aaron Hale, and I was a battlefield medic before the world quietly broke. Not in a dramatic apocalypse sense, but in the slow, secret way where myths stopped hiding and started bleeding. Creatures that once existed only in whispers began showing up wounded, hunted, and desperate. I found her in the ruins of an old cathedral buried deep in the Carpathian forests. The job was supposed to be simple: retrieve medical supplies from an abandoned humanitarian outpost and leave before nightfall. Instead, night found me first, and it found me with her collapsed against a broken altar. She looked dead at first glance. Skin pale as snow, lips stained crimson, silver hair tangled with ash and blood. But her chest rose faintly, and when I stepped closer, her eyes snapped open, glowing a feral red. I froze, every instinct screaming at me to run. Vampire, my mind whispered, predator, monster, death. But she did not attack. She tried to rise and failed, letting out a weak hiss of pain. There was a spear lodged through her side, forged from blessed steel, its runes still burning faintly. Someone had wanted her to suffer before dying. I had seen that kind of cruelty before, just never inflicted on something that legends claimed could not be killed. Our eyes met, and in that moment I expected hatred, hunger, or rage. What I saw instead was fear, raw and unfiltered. "Please," she whispered, her voice barely audible, "do not let me fade here." That was when my training took over. Medic first, questions later. I approached slowly, hands visible, speaking softly like I would to a wounded animal or a terrified child. "I'm not here to hurt you," I said. "I can help if you let me." Her fingers twitched, claws retracting slightly. She hesitated, then nodded once, a tiny movement that felt heavier than any oath. Removing the spear nearly killed her. The blessed metal burned her flesh as I pulled it free, and she screamed, a sound that echoed through the cathedral and into my bones. I used every suppressant, sealant, and regeneration compound I had, improvising where human medicine fell short. Vampire physiology was different, faster, stronger, but pain was still pain. Blood was still blood. And healing, no matter the species, still required care, precision, and will. She passed out before I finished. I worked through the night, guided by instinct and fragments of classified research I had once dismissed as fantasy. When dawn crept through the shattered, stained glass, she was still alive. Her breathing was steady, her wounds sealed with faint silver scars. I leaned back against the cold stone floor, exhausted beyond reason. That was when I realized something terrifying. By healing her, I had marked myself. She woke at sunset, sitting upright in a blur of motion that nearly gave me a heart attack. Her eyes were no longer red, but a deep violet, watching me with sharp intelligence. "You stayed," she said, "not a question. You healed me." "Yes," I replied carefully, "and you're welcome, but if you're going to kill me, I'd appreciate a warning." She stared at me for a long moment, then did something I never expected. She bowed her head. "I am Lysara of the Noctir bloodline," she said, "and you have claimed a life debt older than your species remembers." I frowned. I didn't claim anything, I just did my job. Her lips curved into the faintest smile, sharp fangs just visible. "In my world, healer, that makes you far more dangerous than a warrior." I didn't understand her words then. But I would soon learn that healing a vampire princess was not an act that ended quietly. It was the beginning of a challenge to ancient law, tribal dominance, and a throne soaked in blood. And somewhere far beyond the cathedral, under mountains and moonlit skies, an entire vampire tribe had already felt her survival. And they were coming. I did not sleep after Lysara awoke. Something about the way she watched, the shadows made rest feel like a luxury I could not afford. She moved through the ruined cathedral with unnatural grace, testing her strength, fingers brushing stone columns as if greeting old friends. Each step she took made the air feel heavier, charged with something ancient and alive. "You should leave before moonrise," she said calmly. "My people will feel my return soon." "That doesn't sound comforting," I replied, tightening the strap of my medical pack. "It is not meant to be," she said, her violet eyes settling on me, "especially for you." I asked her what she meant. She did not answer directly, instead walking to the shattered entrance and gazing into the forest. "The Noctir do not ignore debts," she continued, "they enforce them." Before I could ask anything else, the forest answered for her. The air trembled, birds fled, and the ground itself seemed to recoil as figures emerged from the darkness. They moved fast, impossibly fast. Tall shapes cloaked in black and crimson, eyes glowing like embers, fangs bared without shame. There were at least 12 of them, and every instinct in my body told me that a single one could tear me apart. They surrounded the cathedral ruins in silence. Not hunting silence, but ritual silence, as if they were stepping onto sacred ground. One stepped forward, taller than the rest, his presence suffocating. His hair was white like bone, his skin marked with glowing crimson sigils that pulsed like a heartbeat. "Princess," he said, dropping to one knee, "the bloodline breathes again." Lysara's posture shifted instantly. She stood taller, colder, something royal settling over her like a mantle. "Rise, Varrock," she said, "and explain why your spear was in my body." The air froze. Varrock did not flinch, but several of the others shifted uneasily. "You were declared unfit," Varrock replied, voice steady. "The council judged your mercy as weakness." Lysara laughed softly, but there was no humor in it. "They tried to execute me for sparing a human village," she said, glancing briefly at me, "and failed. That was when they noticed me properly." 12 pairs of glowing eyes snapped toward me at once. "A human," one hissed, "alive." "Alive because of him," Lysara said sharply. "Mind your tongues." Varrock's gaze locked onto me. I felt like a bug pinned under glass, every secret in my body laid bare. "This one healed you," he said slowly, "touched Noctir blood and lived." "Yes," she replied, "and by doing so, he claimed my life debt." The reaction was immediate and explosive. Several vampires dropped to one knee instinctively, others recoiled as if struck. One even whispered an old word I did not understand, but felt deep in my spine. Varrock did not kneel. Instead, he studied me with newfound intensity. "A life debt from a princess," he said, "that binds not only her but her bloodline." "I don't want a bloodline," I muttered. "I just wanted to save a life." Lysara turned to me, her expression softening briefly. "You did more than that," she said. "You challenged our laws without knowing them." Varrock straightened fully now, authority radiating from him. "By ancient right," he declared, "the one who saves a royal life may command that life." "That sounds dangerously like slavery," I said, forcing myself to speak despite the fear clawing at my chest. Lysara shook her head. "No," she said, "it is loyalty freely given or freely refused." Varrock's lips curled slightly. "But there is more," he added. "A healer capable of restoring royal blood is no ordinary human." I opened my mouth to protest, but the ground shook again. This time it was not arrival, but submission. One by one, the vampires knelt. Not to Lysara, but to me. The sight made my stomach twist. "This is insane," I said, backing away. "I didn't ask for this." Varrock finally knelt as well, though his eyes never left mine. "Whether you asked or not," he said, "the tribe has recognized you." "Recognized me as what?" I demanded. Lysara answered quietly. "En Alpha." The word echoed through the ruins like a curse. I shook my head violently. "No," I said, "absolutely not." You misunderstand, Varrock said, rising again. This is not an offer. I looked to Lysara, expecting her to deny it, to laugh it off. Instead, she met my gaze with solemn honesty. The tribe needs a leader strong enough to break its cycle, she said, and fate has chosen you. I don't even belong in your world, I said. You belong now, she replied, because you chose compassion over fear. The vampires rose as one, eyes burning with reverence and curiosity. Some looked hopeful, others angry, a few openly hostile. I realized then that healing Lysara had not saved me. It had placed me at the center of a power struggle older than history. Varrock stepped closer, lowering his voice. There will be challenges, he warned, those who will test your right with blood. Let them, Lysara said, stepping beside me. They will answer to me first. Her presence was reassuring, but I could feel the weight of countless eyes, measuring me, judging me. As the moon rose higher, the tribe began to move. They formed an escort around us, not guards, but witnesses. Where are we going? I asked. To the Crimson Hollow, Lysara replied, the heart of the Noctier. And what happens when we get there? She smiled, fangs gleaming softly. You either become our alpha, she said, or you die proving you were never meant to be. The forest swallowed us as we walked. And with every step, I understood one terrifying truth. Saving one vampire girl had made me responsible for an entire species. The Crimson Hollow was not a cave as I expected. It was a vast underground city carved into living stone, illuminated by rivers of bioluminescent crystal that pulsed like veins. Ancient architecture spiraled upward and downward in impossible geometry, bridges crossing open air where gravity seemed optional. The moment I stepped inside, every vampire in the hollow turned to look at me. Their stares were heavier than weapons, layered with hunger, suspicion, reverence, and hatred. This is where your fate will be decided, Lysara said quietly, walking at my side. Her confidence did not waver, but I could sense tension beneath it. We were led to a circular chamber at the city's heart. An arena of black stone etched, with glowing sigils that hummed beneath my boots. The trial of blood and moon, Varrock announced, his voice echoing. An ancient rite invoked only when leadership is contested. I raised an eyebrow. You mean when a human medic accidentally gets promoted to alpha? A few vampires snarled, others smirked. Lysara almost laughed, then caught herself. The trial has 3 paths, Varrock continued, ignoring me. Strength, will, and mercy. That last one sounds suspiciously human, I muttered. Varrock's crimson eyes flicked toward me. It is the path most of us fail. The first challenger stepped forward. A massive vampire with skin like dark iron and arms thick as tree trunks. His name was Karoth, and he radiated raw violence. Strength, Varrock declared. Karoth attacked without warning. The impact of his charge shattered stone, sending cracks spidering across the arena floor. I barely dodged, my heart hammering. I was not a warrior. I did not have supernatural speed or strength. What I did have was awareness, timing, and a lifetime of staying alive in places where I should not have survived. I used the environment. Loose stones, uneven footing, the rhythm of his movements. When he swung, I moved where the blow had been, not where it was going. He caught me once, sending me skidding across the floor. Pain exploded through my ribs, and I tasted blood. Before he could finish it, Lysara's voice cut through the chamber. Enough, she commanded, power rippling in her words. Karoth froze, trembling with fury. Varrock raised a hand. The alpha candidate survives, he said, strength acknowledged. I lay there gasping, wondering how low the bar actually was. The second trial began immediately. Will. They bound me in chains forged from moonsteel, cold and heavy. The crystals dimmed, plunging the chamber into near darkness. A whispering filled the air, voices sliding into my mind. They dug through memories, fears, regrets, every moment I wished I could forget. I saw faces of people I could not save. Heard screams I still carried with me. Felt the crushing weight of failure. Submit, the voices urged, kneel and be spared. I clenched my teeth, breathing through the pain. I did not come this far to kneel, I growled. I focused on one thing. Lysara's eyes in the cathedral, afraid but trusting. The simple truth that healing her had been right, regardless of the cost. The chains cracked. Moonsteel screamed as it fractured, light flooding the chamber once more. Varrock stared, something like awe flickering across his face. "Will proven," he declared. I barely had time to breathe before the final path was announced. Mercy. They brought in a prisoner. A young vampire, wounded and bound, eyes wild with fear. He conspired against the princess, Varrock said. The law demands execution. The crowd murmured, anticipation thick. All eyes turned to me, waiting. My stomach twisted. This was the real test, not my strength or endurance, but my values. I stepped closer to the prisoner, kneeling to meet his gaze. "Why?" I asked softly. "They promised my family safety," he whispered. I was afraid. I stood and faced the council. "Fear makes monsters of us all," I said. "Killing him will not make you stronger." A ripple of anger spread through the chamber. Lysara watched silently, her expression unreadable. "I claim mercy," I said firmly. "Exile instead of death." Silence followed, heavy and uncertain. Then Varrock nodded slowly. Mercy acknowledged. The sigils in the arena flared. The trial was complete. The vampires knelt, not hesitantly this time, but with purpose. The sound of hundreds of knees striking stone echoed like thunder. Lysara stepped forward and knelt as well. "My alpha," she said, voice clear and unwavering. I felt something shift inside me. A connection forming, deep and vast, like roots spreading through the earth. I did not feel like a conqueror. I felt like a guardian. Varrock placed a crimson-marked blade at my feet. "The tribe is yours," he said. "Lead us." I looked out over the crimson hollow. At creatures feared by the world, broken by their own traditions. "I will lead," I said, "but not as a tyrant." A murmur of surprise followed. "I will lead as a healer." Lysara smiled then, truly smiled. And for the first time since entering the hollow, hope outweighed fear. But deep within the shadows of the city, eyes watched with hatred and hunger. Those who would not accept a human alpha. And they were already planning their revenge. Becoming alpha did not come with a crown. It came with silence. A deep, watchful silence that followed me through the crimson hollow as every vampire recalculated what the future meant. Power settled on me like weight, not crushing, but constant. I could feel the tribe now, their presence like distant heartbeats at the edge of my awareness. Lysara stayed close, not as a guard, but as an anchor. "They will test you again," she warned, "not with ritual but with betrayal." She was right. The first assassination attempt came before the next moonrise. A blade slipped from the shadows, aimed for my spine. I did not see it, but I felt Lysara move. Steel rang against stone, and the attacker fled before guards arrived. "They are afraid," I said afterward. "They should be," Lysara replied. "Fear means change is working." News of a human alpha did not stay underground. Hunters, mercenaries, and secret human factions began to stir. To them, I was not a healer. I was a threat that rewrote the rules. Scouts reported armed convoys near the mountain passes. Weapons designed for vampire extermination. Silver payloads, UV cannons, blessed munitions. They will come for all of us, Varrock said during council. Then we meet them differently, I replied. I forbade preemptive slaughter, ordered evacuation routes for non-combatants, established medical sanctuaries instead of killing grounds. Many resisted. Some called me weak behind closed doors. Others listened, quietly hopeful. The first human strike came at dawn. Explosions rocked the outer tunnels, collapsing ancient stone. Screams echoed through the hollow. I ran toward them, not away. Hands shaking, heart pounding. This was still my world too. I treated wounded vampires under fire. Pulled shrapnel from immortal flesh. Used my body as cover when I had nothing else. Something changed then. They stopped seeing me as an anomaly. They saw me as theirs. Lysara fought like a storm, protecting the healers. Her eyes burned violet as she stood between me and death. When the attackers were finally repelled, the hollow was scarred but standing. And the tribe gathered in silence once more. Varrock knelt again, bloodied and solemn. You have done what no alpha before you dared, he said. I looked at the wounded, at the living, at the future still breathing. This is only the beginning, I said. Far above us, the world was already reacting. Governments mobilizing, legends resurfacing. The idea of peace terrifying those who profited from war. I was no longer just a healer who saved a girl. I was an alpha the world would hunt, and I intended to survive long enough to heal it anyway.